Have you ever caught yourself staring at your phone late at night? Not because you're expecting a message, but because there's one woman whose silence feels louder than everyone else's words. And what if I told you that sometimes the strongest feelings are hidden behind the most ordinary behaviors? Before we go deeper, if you've ever watched one of these conversations and felt like someone finally put your unspoken thoughts into words, consider subscribing. Not because you need another channel to follow, but because some truths take time to uncover, and I think you're going to recognize yourself in this one. I've spent years listening to people describe love. Not the dramatic kind, not the movie scenes. I'm talking about the quiet kind, the kind that grows in secret, the kind that sits inside someone's chest while they smile and pretend everything is normal. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. When a woman secretly loves a man, she rarely announces it. In fact, many women do the opposite. They become more careful, more guarded, more confusing, because genuine feelings create vulnerability, and vulnerability is frightening, especially when the outcome is uncertain. The first thing many women do when they secretly love you is something most men completely misunderstand. They start paying attention to details you don't even notice about yourself. Not because they're trying to impress you, not because they're collecting information, because emotional attachment naturally creates focus. Suddenly, she remembers the story you told 3 weeks ago about your childhood. She remembers the name of your dog, the coffee you always order, the song you casually mentioned liking. You tell yourself, she's just observant. Maybe. But here's the part most men miss. People remember what emotionally matters to them. Think about your own life. How many random conversations have disappeared from your memory? Hundreds, maybe thousands. Yet certain moments remain perfectly clear. Why? Because emotion acts like glue, and when a woman secretly cares about you, details stick. I've watched this happen countless times. A woman will remember something a man said months ago, while he can't even remember saying it. And she won't mention it in a dramatic way. It usually slips out naturally, almost accidentally. That's what makes it so revealing. Because rehearsed interest feels different from genuine attention. Genuine attention is effortless. Now here's where things become complicated. Many men assume that if a woman likes them, she'll always move closer. But secret love doesn't always create confidence. Sometimes it creates hesitation. Sometimes the woman who feels the most is the one trying hardest to appear unaffected. That's why the signs aren't always obvious. They're hidden inside small moments, tiny behaviors, subtle shifts in attention. And if you've ever felt confused by a woman's actions, if you've ever wondered why her behavior seems warm one day and distant the next, stay with me, because the next sign is where things become much more emotionally revealing and much more uncomfortable. The second thing women often do when they secretly love you is something that confuses men more than almost anything else. They create distance. Not permanent distance, not rejection, just enough space to protect themselves. I know that sounds strange, because most people imagine love as movement towards someone, but real emotions aren't always that simple. Imagine a woman sitting across from a man she genuinely cares about. She's listening, she's smiling, everything seems normal. Yet inside her mind, a completely different conversation is happening. What if I'm reading this wrong? What if he doesn't feel the same way? What if I care more than he does? Those questions create tension, and tension changes behavior. I've sat with women who described this experience almost the same way. They wanted to text him, so they waited. They wanted to spend time with him, so they became busy. They wanted to tell him how much he mattered, so they talked about everything except that. Not because they were playing games, because they were protecting their heart. A lot of men misinterpret this. They see hesitation and assume disinterest. But hesitation and disinterest are not the same thing. In fact, sometimes they're complete opposites. When someone means very little to us, we have almost nothing to lose. We speak freely. We act naturally. We don't overthink every interaction. But when someone starts becoming emotionally important, everything suddenly feels risky. Every message gets analyzed. Every conversation gets replayed afterward. Every silence feels longer than it really is. You know what's fascinating? The women who secretly love someone often notice their own behavior changing, and they don't always like it. They wonder why they're nervous, why they're thinking about him more than they intended, why one simple interaction can affect their mood for hours. So they try to regain control. And one of the easiest ways to regain control is distance. Not because they want less connection, because they fear becoming too attached before they know where they stand. I've heard women say things like, "I stopped texting him for a few days because I realized I was getting too excited every time my phone lit up." Think about that. The absence wasn't caused by lack of feeling, it was caused by too much feeling. And this creates one of the biggest misunderstandings in modern relationships. Two people can care deeply about each other, while both are trying to hide it. One becomes quieter, the other becomes confused, and neither realizes they're reacting to the same fear. Fear of wanting something they might not get. The truth is, secret love rarely feels romantic from the inside. It feels uncertain, messy, vulnerable, sometimes even exhausting, because carrying feelings in silence requires emotional energy, and eventually that energy starts leaking into behavior. Which brings us to another sign that is surprisingly difficult to fake. A sign that often appears before a woman even admits her feelings to herself, because long before people confess love, their attention begins revealing it. The third thing women often do when they secretly love you is they become emotionally tuned into you in a way that surprises even them. And no, I don't mean they suddenly become mind readers. I mean they start noticing changes in you that other people overlook. Your mood, your energy, the slight difference in your voice when you're tired, the way your smile looks when it's genuine versus when you're forcing it. Most people listen to respond. A woman who secretly cares about you starts listening to understand. There's a difference, a huge difference. I've seen this happen over and over. A man walks into a room and says, "I'm fine." Everyone accepts it. But one woman pauses. Something feels off. She notices the tension in his shoulders, the shorter answers, the unusual silence, and suddenly she's asking questions nobody else thought to ask. Not because she's investigating, because somewhere along the way, your emotional state started mattering to her. More than she intended, more than she planned. And that's the strange thing about genuine feelings. They often show themselves through concern long before they show themselves through romance. A woman may never tell you she likes you, but she'll remember you mentioned having a stressful week. Then she'll casually check how you're doing days later. She may not openly express affection, but she'll notice when something seems wrong. And what makes this important is that emotional attention requires investment. People naturally spend energy on what matters to them. Think about your own life. When someone means very little to you, their mood doesn't occupy much space in your mind. You wish them well, then you move on. But when someone becomes emotionally significant, their happiness affects you, their struggles affect you, their absence affects you. And that's where many men miss what's happening, because they focus entirely on obvious attraction, flirting, compliments, physical signals. Meanwhile, the deeper signs are quietly unfolding underneath. A woman who secretly loves you may not always say the perfect thing. She may not always know how to express what she feels, but she'll often show up emotionally. She'll remember, she'll notice, she'll care. And sometimes that care becomes almost impossible to hide. Not in dramatic ways, in small moments, the kind most people ignore. Like asking how an important meeting went, remembering something you were worried about, checking in after a difficult day. Those things sound ordinary, but psychologically they're powerful. Because attention is one of the purest forms of emotional investment. You give it to what matters. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes a woman begins caring deeply before she's ready to admit it, even to herself, which creates an internal conflict. Part of her wants to stay detached, part of her is already emotionally involved. And when those two forces collide, something very interesting starts happening. She begins looking for reasons to be around you, not always intentionally, not always consciously, but often enough that once you see it, you can't unsee it. And that is where the next sign begins to reveal itself. The fourth thing women often do when they secretly love you is they start creating opportunities for connection. And before you picture grand romantic gestures, that's not what I'm talking about. It's usually much quieter than that, almost invisible. A message that didn't really need to be sent, a question she could have answered herself, a conversation that somehow lasts 10 minutes longer than necessary. On the surface, these moments seem insignificant, but emotionally, they're often carrying far more weight than either person realizes. I've noticed something interesting over the years. When people genuinely care about someone, they start looking for reasons to keep that person present in their world. Not because they're calculating, because emotional attachment naturally seeks connection. A woman who secretly loves you may suddenly find herself sharing things she normally keeps private. Not her deepest secrets, not immediately, but pieces of herself. Stories, opinions, memories, little fragments of her inner world. And she may not even understand why she's doing it. She simply feels comfortable opening doors that usually stay closed. That's important, because emotional intimacy rarely begins with declarations. It begins with trust, with gradual exposure, with someone saying, "Here's a part of me most people don't see." And if she's doing that consistently, it often means your presence has become emotionally meaningful. But here's where it gets complicated. The more someone cares, the more vulnerable connection feels. So you'll sometimes notice a strange pattern. She moves closer, then pulls back, opens up, then becomes guarded, shares something personal, then changes the subject. To many men, this feels confusing, even contradictory, but psychologically it makes perfect sense. Because secret love creates two competing desires, the desire to connect and the desire to stay safe. One moment she wants you closer, the next moment she's worried about what that closeness means. I've watched people spend months living inside that tension, wanting more, fearful of more, hoping, doubting, repeating the cycle over and over. And sometimes it reveals itself in the smallest ways. She laughs a little harder at your jokes. She remembers conversations that should have been forgettable. She finds reasons to continue interactions that could have ended naturally. Not because she's trying to trap your attention, because she enjoys your presence, more than she lets herself admit. And that's the key difference. People make time for what they enjoy, but they make emotional space for what they value. When a woman secretly loves you, she's not just enjoying conversations, she's emotionally investing in them. She leaves thinking about them afterward, replaying moments, wondering what you meant by certain things, looking forward to the next interaction, even if she never says it. And there's something else that often happens when those feelings deepen. Something almost every woman tries to hide. She begins caring about how she is perceived by you. Not by everyone, by you. And that subtle shift can reveal far more than any flirtatious comment ever could. Because when someone's opinion starts carrying emotional weight, their feelings are usually much deeper than they appear. The fifth thing women often do when they secretly love you is they begin seeing themselves through your eyes. Read that again in your mind. Not because they lose who they are, not because they suddenly need your approval for everything, but because when someone becomes emotionally important, their opinion naturally starts carrying more weight than everyone else's. Think about the last time someone truly mattered to you. Didn't you wonder what they thought of you? Didn't you replay conversations after they ended? Didn't you ask yourself if you had said too much? Or maybe not enough? That's human. And women experience that same quiet uncertainty. She might stand in front of her closet a little longer before meeting you, not because she's trying to become someone else, because she's hoping the version of herself you see matches the person she feels she is inside. She may rewrite a text message 3 or 4 times before sending it, delete it, type it again, read it one last time, then finally press send, only to spend the next 10 minutes wondering if it sounded too eager, or too distant, or too cold. You'd be surprised how many emotions can exist behind a message that simply says, "Hope you're having a good day." I've had women laugh while telling me these stories, not because they found them funny, because they realized how vulnerable they had become. One woman once told me something I'll never forget. She said, "I hated how much one compliment from him could brighten my entire week." That sentence stayed with me, not because it was dramatic, because it was honest. When feelings are real, small moments stop feeling small. A simple, "You look nice today." A genuine, "I'm proud of you." Even a thoughtful glance when she's speaking. Those moments can echo inside her mind long after you've forgotten they happened. And here's something most men never notice. When a woman secretly loves you, she often pays close attention to your reactions. Not in an obsessive way, in a deeply human way. She notices whether you smiled when she walked in, whether your eyes lit up during the conversation, whether you seemed genuinely happy to see her. Because those little reactions become clues. Clues that help answer the question she's too afraid to ask directly. Do I matter to him? That question sits quietly beneath so many interactions, not spoken aloud, just carried silently. The irony is, many men are asking themselves the exact same question. Two people standing only a few feet apart, both wondering if they're important to the other, both hiding it, both hoping the other person makes the first unmistakable move. And sometimes, neither one does. That's why so many meaningful connections never become relationships. Not because the feelings weren't there, because fear spoke louder than honesty. But there is one final sign. The one I believe reveals more than all the others combined. It's subtle, it's deeply emotional, and once you understand it, you'll never look at quiet affection the same way again. The seventh, and perhaps the most revealing, thing a woman often does when she secretly loves you is this. She quietly starts imagining a future that includes you. Not a fantasy, not a fairy tale, just small, ordinary moments. And strangely enough, those ordinary moments are usually the strongest sign of genuine affection. She hears about a cafe and thinks, he'd probably like that place. She watches a movie and wonders if you'd laugh at the same scenes. She walks past something that reminds her of a conversation you had weeks ago. Your presence begins appearing in places where you aren't physically there. That's what emotional attachment does. It connects memories, places, and experiences to one person. Without permission, without planning, without trying. And here's the part that few people talk about. When a woman truly cares, she's often less interested in impressing you than she is in feeling emotionally safe with you. In the beginning, attraction can be exciting, but love, real love, slowly shifts the focus. Instead of asking, how do I make him notice me? The question becomes, can I be myself around him? That change is quiet, almost invisible, yet it changes everything. She laughs more naturally. She stops trying to sound perfect. She lets you see moments of uncertainty, moments that most people never witness, because pretending is exhausting. And with someone she genuinely trusts, she eventually wants to put the mask down. I've noticed something beautiful over the years. The strongest relationships rarely begin with perfect confidence. They begin with two imperfect people slowly realizing they don't have to perform anymore. That's why secret love isn't usually loud. It's patient, it's careful, sometimes painfully careful. It hides inside thoughtful questions, gentle concern, lingering eye contact, comfortable silence, remembered details, tiny acts of kindness that seem ordinary until you see them together. But I also want to leave you with something important. None of these signs, by themselves, prove that someone is in love with you. Human behavior is complex. Kindness is not always romance. Attention is not always attraction. The healthiest approach isn't to search for certainty in every smile or every message. It's to notice patterns over time, to stay emotionally grounded, to communicate honestly when the moment feels right. And above all, to become the kind of man who doesn't chase validation, but values genuine connection. Because here's what I've learned after countless conversations with both men and women. The people who build the deepest relationships aren't the ones who spend all their energy decoding every signal. They're the ones who create a space where honesty feels safe, where neither person has to hide behind fear. If there's a woman in your life who quietly remembers the little things, notices your unseen struggles, finds reasons to stay connected, cares about your opinion, and slowly lets you see the real version of her, don't rush to label it, don't assume, simply appreciate it. Treat it with patience, with respect, because sincere affection is becoming increasingly rare in a world that encourages people to hide what they truly feel. And if today's conversation made you stop, if it reminded you of someone, or perhaps helped you understand someone in a new way, then maybe the most meaningful thing you can do isn't to guess what's in her heart. It's to show up with honesty in your own. Sometimes that's exactly what another heart has been waiting for all along. Before you leave, I want to ask you one question. Have you ever realized that someone cared about you only after it was too late? If this conversation made you think of someone, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. Your experience might help someone else who needs to hear it today. And if you enjoy thoughtful conversations about female psychology, relationships, and becoming the kind of man who builds genuine connections, subscribe and join me for the next one. Until then, take care of yourself, stay emotionally honest, and never underestimate the quiet ways people show they care.